Did you know that your child doesn't have to leave their bedroom to be trafficked? No white van, no stranger at the park, just a phone, and someone who knows exactly what to say. This has a name. Most parents have never heard of it. It's called Sextortion.
What is always accessible and connected to billions of people, and it has cameras and it has apps and is designed to be addictive, and it's often unsupervised. That's today's technology for our youth and for children: cell phones, iPads, computers. And often parents and grandparents are surprised when predators use technology as hunting grounds for children. We are talking with Terry Markham today from UPrising out of Sheridan, Wyoming. So we're going to get right into it, Terry. We are often surprised when we find that they're using technology to groom kids, to attract to kids. So we're talking specifically about sextortion. So could you clearly define that for us?
Yeah, so sextortion is a crime that happens whenever a predator gets a hold of a person's sensitive images or videos, and then they use those to threaten them. So what we're seeing a lot of in the case of youth here in Wyoming are basically predators who are coercing children for their nude images or videos. And then the second that they get that content, they are then threatening that child and saying, I'm going to release all of this content. I'm going to send it to your grandma Sharon. I'm going to send it to your mom Terry. I'm going to send it to all your teachers and all of your friends on your friends lists, on your social media accounts, if you don't do X, Y, or Z. So it's basically taking sexting and extortion and putting it together.
Yeah, that's what I find to be amazing. And you could, I'm going to ask something that might make parents feel really uncomfortable, Terry, but would you know any percentage of parents that know what their kids are looking at? What percentage of parents know the apps that are on their phones and on their iPads? And what percentage of explicit conversations about the dangers of sharing these photos?
I wish I knew some of those statistics. I can tell you from the work that I do, traveling around the state, talking to youth directly, and then doing a lot of parent and caregiver training and support, that most parents aren't monitoring what their kids are doing online to the level that they need to be. And a lot of it is because they don't understand the technology themselves. So they're very intimidated by that. They're not sure how to monitor it. They're not sure what's happening out there. I can tell you data on the flip side though. For instance, in Wyoming, I myself, my organization, we have surveyed nearly 4,000 Wyoming youth ages 12 and up. And out of those youth that we have personally surveyed, 10% of them have said that they've already experienced sextortion. So that's a pretty big number.
Oh yeah, how does sextortion begin?
Usually it just begins with a child who's looking for connection. Some of the scenarios I see, like a really common one right now, we have a lot of especially young boys who are being sextorted, and a lot of times those are originating from like the video games. So it could be Roblox, Minecraft, all of those games that the kids are playing online where they're able to chat and connect with people. Predators know where kids are. All the apps, all the places where your kids are, that's where the predators are going to be. And so they're on those same games and apps, and it just might start with like, hey, like you seem really cool. I like that we both like this game. And if that kid is truly looking for that connection, like they might just play into that rapport building that easily. And then it just takes a little bit of conversation to get them to the more sexualized stuff, where then that person's coercing them into sending those images. And I always tell parents that, and I tell kids this, that the predators that are doing this, they are master manipulators. And so that kid is oftentimes, this is where a lot of the struggle with the disclosure comes, is those kids, they often feel like they chose to send those pictures. They feel like they're the ones who did it. So there's always a lot of fear of like, I'm going to get in trouble because I sent these pictures. They don't realize that these predators are literally masters at getting that content from you and making it feel like you chose to send that. So that's one thing that's really scary, is how that conversation can go from 0 to 60 so fast. And it really depends on, of course, the kid, their maturity level. But I've seen conversations where it's mere minutes, you know, with a really young child where they've already built the trust and they're asking for nudes. I've also seen where predators might take days or weeks even to groom a child to get that content.
And particularly at such a vulnerable time in adolescence. And do you see this happening to preteens?
Absolutely.
Pre-adolescent? How young?
I mean, we've had cases with very, very young kids. We're talking elementary age kids. And so when I now actually will choose to do prevention with an elementary school over a high school if I have the choice. I mean, I want to go to all the schools, of course, but if I have to prioritize, I'd rather get in those elementary classrooms now where I can do more age-appropriate online safety talks with those kids and start giving them a baseline, because I can tell you by the time I get to middle school, I'm already at that 10% disclosure rate. So it's already happening to them.
Let's break down what we just heard, because this is where it gets real. Sextortion isn't some far-off threat happening to other people's kids. It's happening everywhere there is technology. Right now, in your house, your town, your state, our country. Groomers don't introduce themselves as adults. They present as peers. Same age, same interests, same slang. Trust comes first, then curiosity, then secrecy, then fear. They become the person your child trusts most. Then they ask for a photo. Just one. And the moment your child sends it, everything changes. This is not friendship. This is blackmail. Send more photos. Send money. Send gift cards. Give me names of your friends, or I'll send this to everyone you know. This is sextortion, and it's an entry point to sex trafficking.
I asked a teacher that I train how many of their kindergartners had cell phones in their backpacks, had access, and 6 out of 16 kids had cell phones. I was shocked that a 5 or 6-year-old have cell phones. And so I look up that statistics to discover that since the pandemic, that cell phone use in some countries has risen as far as 70%, and screen time has just doubled, 50% in screen time access for young children. Now, I understand that sextortion is umbrellaed under sex trafficking. I'm shocked because when I envision sex trafficking, I envision somebody being abducted, taken far away, out of their community, out of their city, or out of their state or country immediately. And this is just so new to us. It seems to me probably the best device that we would have would be awareness.
Yeah, well, that is something that I hear all the time, of course, since I'm the person who trains about trafficking around the state. But technically, what counts as sex trafficking specifically is when there's any kind of a sex act, which for a minor, just the sending of nudes is technically a sex act because a minor cannot legally consent to sending those illicit images. So any kind of a sex act in exchange for anything of value where a third party's profiting. So that could literally be the kid who meets someone online, that person coerces them for that content, which we technically call that CSAM, child sexual abuse material. And when they get that content, if they profit off of it in some way, then technically that is trafficking. And we have an organization within our state, actually every state has one, it's called ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children. And so it's a whole group of investigators who only are investigating exploitative cases of children where they're being hurt online. And so we have data to know how many cases that they are dealing with. And the commander of their ICAC once told me that every time that picture of that kid that that predator's gotten hold of, every time it gets reshared or sold or traded, it's like that kid's being re-trafficked and re-trafficked and re-trafficked. So I actually view this as like a pretty horrific form of trafficking, because there's no closure to it, you know? Something like a sexual assault or an in-person assault, like that heinous act happens and then it's over, right? And then you can do all the things that you need to do personally to try to heal from that. Something like this, when it involves technology in your pictures don't ever fully go away. It gets put online, predators download it at high rates, and even if we get it taken down, if we know it's gotten posted online and we get it removed, we don't know how many people screenshot it or downloaded it before it was removed. And so that content could get re-uploaded years later, and it could just keep circling back around and around, to the point where, I mean, our ICAC, sometimes they'll get cases and they'll still be seeing content from like victims in the 70s, and it's still being recirculated. So there's no closure to that, you know?
Are kids do they easily comply to having a conversation
about like sextortion?
Yes.
Yeah, they're usually pretty enraptured whenever I talk about it, like when I'm going to classrooms and stuff, because this is their world. It's not surprising to them. I'm just giving them the fancy word for something that they already know about. They already know that there's people who are trying to get their nudes online, and it's become so normalized. And national data shows us that there's a good percentage of youth who actually just view it as very normal to send your nudes, even to people you don't know, even to people who you think are adults, even though you're a child. And so whenever I start talking about these conversations, usually kids are very much into that conversation and they're listening because it's something that's familiar to them, but they didn't realize the gravity of it. They didn't realize the criminality of it. And so oftentimes this is one of the conversations where I typically will get the most questions, because kids want to know, because they know this is either, if they haven't experienced it themselves, they probably know someone who's experienced.
Talk to me about the mental health issues that you see going on with kids that are going through this currently.
Yeah, that's the thing I probably care about the most, because I know people who it's happened to personally. I've walked alongside families who are dealing with this, and I can tell you, just even from testimonies I've heard on the topic, what happens when that threat comes to that child is immediately that child is terrified. That's a very scary threat. I mean, we grow up innately knowing like our private parts are private, right? So when that threat comes through, you know what's going through that kid's mind is like, I shouldn't have done that. I sent those images, like I'm gonna get in trouble. So they immediately start to feel isolated, shame, guilt, fear. And that predator knows that, and so they will play off of that, and so they just continue, and they can be relentless with these threats. And I always tell kids also, I'm like, you know what's going to happen if you comply, if you send them the money, if you give them the thing they're asking for. A lot of times that almost makes it worse, because then they know they've got you, and those threats aren't going to stop. They're probably going to get worse. If you don't comply, you block, you report, whatever, then it's, at this point, I'd say my best guess is a 50-50 shot of maybe that person's actually going to follow through, because I've absolutely seen where they leak the kids' nudes. I've also seen where they just move on to the next victim and nothing happens. So it's a gamble either way. But my biggest message to kids is, you are not alone in this. You are not going to be in trouble. And my first question when I find out that someone has dealt with this is always, did you check on that youth? Your first question to your kids should be, are you okay? Because the mental health fallout is so terrible. I've heard parents who tell me, you know, it was an hour from the time of the threat to the time that their child took their own life. I've seen some really horrible outcomes, and that's it. For a while there, it felt like it was getting closer and closer to home. Like, I work really closely with Montana DCI, and my officer friend there had just recently, a few months back, told me that he knew of 3 cases of minors who had taken their own life related to sextortion cases in the last 12 months. And I thought, oh, it's getting closer to home. And then unfortunately, we've just had our first case in Wyoming just in the last couple of months, where we had a youth who experienced sextortion and ended up taking their own life. And it was just a matter of hours from that threat to when that happened. And so that's, to me, the worst possible outcome.
This doesn't end with the message thread. Anxiety, depression, isolation, shame, guilt, fear, then self-harm. With sextortion, we are seeing kids carry adult-level trauma before they even understand what happened to them.
So I think when it comes to this crime, it's just a shout it from the rooftops. At this point, it's so common that it's almost like this is going to come across our youth's lives in some form at some point. So let's just talk about it. Let's almost not normalize it to the point of it's not normal that this should be happening, but normalize it to the point of like this is a thing that happens very frequently. And when it does, like there is help. Whatever apps that your child is using, whatever games they're playing, you should have those same apps and games on your own phone because you need to learn them. You need to learn how to navigate them. You need to see what they're all about. You need to become friends with your kid on those platforms. You know, get to know their phone and the things they're doing. There's not an app in the world that can 100% protect your kid. There's not a monitoring software out there that exists that doesn't have some sort of flaw that can be worked around. So we cannot rely on outside filters to protect our kids. We have to put the filter in the kids. And that just means having conversations, but just have the conversations and not one time. It's ongoing.
Technology itself isn't evil, but it is powerful. And power without protection always creates victims. This isn't about panic. It's about preparation. Talk early, not after something happens. Normalize conversations about online pressure. Create safety without punishment. Teach kids you'll never be in trouble for telling the truth. If your child has a phone, this concerns you. If you know a parent, this concerns you. If we stay silent, predators win.
I talked to 12 adults that I came into contact the last couple of days. 10 of them did not know anything about sextortion, and they were shocked that this was going on in children. So, you know, is there anything right now that parents should really be working on with their kids other than this open communication?
Informing themselves to really be a true safe adult, you have to be the informed resource. So you've got to look for the opportunity to learn about these things, because otherwise you are just going to be in the dark, which means your kid's going to be in the dark. And that's the last thing that we want.
So the higher the iPhone use, the higher the iPad, the higher technological use that our children have, the higher the risk of sextortion is basically what I'm saying. What should parents do if they discover that their child is either being groomed in some way or they're experiencing this?
In that moment, you just need to be like, are you okay? How are you doing? What do I need to do to take care of you? Give me the device. I'm going to handle this. This is an adult problem now, and I've got this. Let's just make sure you're okay, and that's the only thing you need to worry about. Put all the devices that you can, put them in airplane mode, because airplane mode cuts off the communication so that if a predator has, say, coached your child on how to download an app where they can remote into their device to delete all the evidence, they can't do that if you airplane mode the device. So airplane mode preserves potential evidence on the device and then get it to law enforcement.
If you think there are no evils in technology, you need to get the books out. You need to listen to podcasts. You need to listen to awareness pieces that really enlighten you in the area of technology. Because we're talking about young children. We're just not talking about the girl that's 15, 16. We're going into pre-teen ages. There are evils of technology. And the best device, the best power, the best thing that we can do as adults is to become aware of what is going on in the cell phone, the apps, and everything that they're basically exposed to. So please share this video with everyone and anyone. Give it to your church, give it to your school, give it to your law enforcement. be educated, be aware. So Uprising is not a victim servicing agency, correct?
Yeah, we are all upstream. So our main goal is prevention. So we do a lot of work directly with youth. And then sort of the other hat we wear is the training and education and technical assistance. So we train, for instance, we train all the law enforcement in the state. We train banks, we train businesses, we train educators, parents, all the people around youth, and then a lot of community-based training as well. And we do have victim serving agencies in the state. So we do get people who will disclose to us, and we can, of course, get them in the right hands. But our main goal is to try to do the upstream work to lessen, the victim pool that's downstream later.